Hello, everyone. My name is Rayven. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the host of the Rainbow Veteran Podcast, and welcome back to another episode of the Rainbow Veteran Podcast. Trying on a new little intro. Not sure how we're going to do about it, or how we feel about it, but I'm going to try my best to kind of be a bit lively in the intro. Before I get into today's topic, I do want to say a belated Happy Easter and Happy 420 for anybody who partakes like I do. I may be doing a veteran and plant-based medicine episode down the road, but I do really want to talk about what this current administration and the government is looking towards privatizing both military aspects, like the military support system, and the VA. And I'm going to be talking about that, and I'm going to be reading the military.com article that started it all, and kind of talk about how I feel about things while I'm reading the article. Cards on the table, I have already read, I think, a third of the article, and for some reason, my internet just chat for a second. It just decided we're not going to work. So with me using Riverside as like the main source, I unfortunately have to do it while I'm connected to the internet, which is a good and bad thing, unfortunately, for me. So I am going to try to recreate what I said the first time I read this article. But no, I am basically trying to react and talk about this article with you guys. And I'm trying my best to read it and react as I'm reading it, because it really didn't get super far into the article. But you may be asking, what fucking article are you talking about, Greer? I have your answer. It is titled from military.com. Pentagon turns focus to potentially privatizing commissaries, military exchanges. This was written on April 11th, 2025, and I'm going to read it with you guys. The Pentagon's newest push to trim its workforce and spending could mean that on-base grocery stores and shops designed to save service members and their families, also veterans who have base access, money that could ultimately be sold off to the private sector. An April 7th memo signed by Deputy Defense Secretary Steve Feinberg listed a wide range of possible reforms aimed to, quote, deliver maximum value to the warfighter, end quote. Among them included, quote, all functions that are not inherently governmental, e.g. retail sales and recreation, should be prioritized for privatization. A defense official familiar with the intent behind the memo told military.com on Thursday that there weren't any off-limit areas for cuts or privatization. Commissaries, military-run hotels, and on-base welfare facilities were all fair game, they said. Now, I'm going to stop here before I read any more of the article, because this is where I stopped the first time. And I kind of want to talk about all of that. So, the thing that military.com did not mention, and I feel like I should, just in case people don't know their benefits, even though I talked about this on my simple breakdown of veteran benefits, is that if you have your veteran health identification card and you are a service-connected veteran, a former POW, or you have your Purple Heart, you have base access. You can shop at the commissary. You can shop at the exchanges. You can go to the MWR stuff. You can go to the on-base hotels or campsites. And this is something that honestly kind of pisses me off, because I know a lot of veterans who travel cross-country, and they, more often than not, will use the on-base campgrounds or RV parks to kind of be a nice, cheaper way for them to travel across the country that they defended. And, you know, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that is something we should do. We should offer. But also service members do that. And those hotels, you ever got a change of station? Have you ever got, like, PCS somewhere? Did you go on to the on-base hotels? I know some people have. Not for me personally. I'm cheap, but I'd rather go camping. But even still, like, on base hotels also have helped veterans where the VA is really close to the base, where they can just either get a bus, they know someone can take them, or they can just get like a taxi or an Uber. Those hospitals have great deals if you're like going to a totally different VA for something, and it's not inpatient. That's right, inpatient. Hey, listeners, is inpatient the one that like you go in and then you like stay in the hospital? I don't go to hospitals that often. Like, I've never stayed overnight in a hospital. I don't fucking know. Anyway, I'm not a doctor or a nurse. But anyway, I'm getting off topic here. So the hotel thing really irks me because there's been a few hotel magnates that have really wanted to get their hands on the on-base hotel system because they want the money. But also if we let corporations come into the military and be part of the military support that we've been giving since before World War I, but it's gotten even better after World War II, and was a big benefit that a lot of us service members get because it is quote-unquote keeping the government in red. That is such a stupid fucking argument. The government is not a business. The government should be running the country. I don't understand why people have such a hard issue with that, but it pisses me off, right? Because I'll use housing as an example. So we have like what? 3, 4, maybe 5 government contractors who run the on-base housing, not the barracks, which I don't doubt that sometimes there's probably a base that I don't know of, that the barracks are run by them. I'm talking about the housing, where the service member and their family live on base, right? Something happens. You put in a maintenance request. They don't show up for months. The thing you warned them about that's going to breaks. Now you have to pay out of pocket. They won't reimburse you. And sometimes they won't even come and fix it, or they'll charge you for damages. Sometimes these buildings are old. They're not updated. They're not up to code. They're broken. Like, we've all seen the videos of, like, military base housing doors, right? Where you just, like, you push it close, and then it kind of just opens itself again. Or you have to, like, kick it. Or you can just look at it wrong, and it opens. These are the things that we're talking about. Like, we have these guys who are going to basically already are doing military-grade housing on base. And now we want to do that with recreation and our food? And yes, I know some bases have been fucking up the food situation with the Army, especially. I know that. But that is a rare case and a 1, maybe 2 base issue. And that is just mismanagement on the base. It's not mismanagement on the Army. Right? So I want to talk about this because I am very adamantly against privatizing anything with the military as much as it can be, right? Like, I understand trying to make cuts to the government and, like, cuts to, like, wasteful spending in the DoD. Like, you know, the Advanced Combat Rifle Program. We wasted a bunch of money with that just to put a scope on the gun we already had. Like, yeah, trim the fat there, right? Sure. But I'll use commissary and Walmart as an example, right? So we want someone to come in, and it's going to be the person who can get the job done at the lowest bid, military grade. And they're going to do exactly what the government says, nothing more. You want us to stock the shelves from this time to this time? Okay, you want the food to be you want us to sell the food no later than this time? Sure, we'll do that. And let food run out before that time. Like, that's the kind of mentality I'm afraid that's going to happen. Because I've seen it with government contracts. And a lot of the times, even if they are contracted to do something, like the housing, they get more money than they have to worry about the fines. Like, they can pay off the fines and not worry about it. Oh, you didn't do this? Oh, okay, here comes big government slap on the wrist. Here's a fine. Oh, what's that? That's like half a month's payment that we give you? That's the fucking government and these privatized sectors, right? It is so fucking stupid. It is so fucking stupid. And that's the thing that I think we shouldn't do. If we want to look at privatizing, or not even privatizing, just saving money for the government, maybe we should try figuring out why Raytheon's charging like $2,000 for something that costs $10. Maybe we should look into that. Instead of going, oh, okay, that costs $2,000. But now, we don't want to do that. We want to make service members, their families, and veterans' lives harder. So, going with the Walmart analogy, Walmart has become really shitty with their products, right? Managing it, owning it. I've seen on and offline where Walmart's coolers will break. They keep the meat in there. You can tell someone about it, like I have, because I'm like, hey, butcher, that chicken on that cooler's not working. It's bloated. The packaging has bloated. You have rotten meat on the shelf. Okay. Doesn't do anything about it. I come back 12 minutes later. Still there. Okay, I'm going to get someone else. I still don't know if that ever got off the floor or not. But that's the thing that's happening. Walmarts have gone really downhill since the early 2000s. In fact, it's kind of going the way of Kmart. So Kmart, in my opinion, at least the areas I grew up in, is way better. So you're going to have these corporations who, more often than not, sell things more expensive than the commissary. And they're going to do the bare minimum, squeak on by, or if they don't, just pay the fee because it's a drop in the hat, just so they can have that cash cow of having a government contract. Because that's what everybody wants. They want a piece of that government spending. Because the government spending's not going to run out more often than not unless the contract doesn't get renewed. But by then, they've already made their fucking money. So they don't have to worry about it. Because Congress, who carries the purse, can never agree on shit. So if shit happens, and they're like, well, we're not going to renew, but if they don't take care of it fast enough and then they don't have someone else to come in, they end up renewing. And it sucks. It really does. It really fucking sucks. So, before I carry on with the article, I want to talk about pricing as well, because I know that's a big thing a lot of people complain about with the commissary, right? Like, everyone's like, oh, the commissary and the PX and the NEX, they don't save you money. I end up spending more money on base. Okay. First off, fuck you. Because I'm so sick of that argument, because more often than not, it's not true. Now, yes, there are some things that the PX or the NEX, or whatever the freaking Coast Guard calls theirs, they do sell a little more expensive sometimes, right? Like, I'll give an example of one rare time that it is more expensive. I'm looking at cameras for the podcast. I'm looking to buy a camera so I can set it up with my computer so I can have a visual component, right? Sony right now has a sale from Sony themselves on the specific camera I want. And it's a sale Sony is giving at that moment. The commissary, or I'm sorry, not the commissary, but the PX and the NEX online, we're selling it just $10 less than the full retail price was. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Sony has a sale right now. Cool. They're probably trying to get rid of stuff before tariffs happen because Sony's a Japanese company. Makes sense. Okay. Whatever. But that's the thing. It's, hey, this place has it on sale. The commissary right now, goddamn, why do I keep saying the commissary? Because I think I'm trying to go back to the commissary because that's the one that irks me the most. But, like, the PX doesn't have it on sale. Okay, well, what are you going to do when, like, Ford has a truck on sale, but Toyota doesn't? But the Toyota is a more reliable service. Like, maintenance, like, the dealerships have more reliable, like, mechanics than the Ford dealership? You seriously going to go to the Ford dealership? That's the same kind of mentality, right? Like, oh, they happen to be on sale in this one area. Okay, instead of bitching about it, Go get the sale. Save money. And then shut up. But with the commissary, everyone was like, oh, I can get it cheaper at Walmart. I can get it cheaper at Aldi. No, you fucking can't. And I will use my experience as an example, and people I've talked to online as an example. I lived in 2 states recognizing grocery shopping, and I'm not counting when I lived in Mississippi because I couldn't remember any of the shopping trips. I couldn't tell you how much the money was. It wasn't until we moved back to Virginia when I was like 8 that I started noticing patterns. So we're looking like 2003, 2004. The biggest one I remember is 2008 in Virginia. The area I lived in Virginia, I can't speak for all of Virginia, but at least the area in Virginia I lived in, they taxed food. Food was taxed, but they didn't really tax as much on gas like they do here in PA. So, like, there's a give and take, right? So, they tax groceries. Going to Walmart or the dollar store or Food Lion, which was the more local, smaller chain, commissary was still cheaper. Like, 2008. We're feeding a family of 5. It's both my maternal grandparents, my mom, my dad, and me in a house. 2008. Peak of the housing crisis, right? And my grandparents owned their house. We got 2 full shopping carts and almost overflowing of shopping carts for $500 at the most. In 2008? That was great. Didn't mean to rhyme there. Shut up. But like, yeah, 2008, that was fan-fucking-tastic. But it's definitely something that, like, I could still do today, right? I'm feeding 3 people in my house. And I'm getting all my groceries in a full shopping cart. I mean, just one of those shopping carts like we had when I was a kid. Not fully overflowing, but definitely over the top. And stuff underneath on the bottom for less than $300. Now, yes, I do note that some places like Costco, probably Walmart, and Aldi, they sell certain items at a loss. That's to get you in the door, but they have a lot of stuff way higher. So I'm going to use the commissary in Walmart just because I know more often than not, because how far spread Walmart is, everyone's near a fucking Walmart. So the commissary and Walmart get the same items from the same supplier. It costs the same amount. The commissary takes that price that they paid, gives it to the person buying in the commissary, plus a 5% service fee. This fee goes to maintenance and people's paychecks, right? And when I say maintenance, I mean like maintenance for the fucking building. Walmart gets the same product. Hey, I could sell this for more expensive. Adds $2, $3, $5 on some of the products. Now, sometimes Walmart does have a sale. Super rare. They don't do it much anymore. But they do have a sale. Mostly because the product's about to expire. They have a sale. Sell it for less than they paid for it. But they're going to expect you to buy more of the full price items. And that's where a lot of the big differences are coming from. Is that wholesale price, right? And now, can Walmart do the Costco thing? Sure. They can make their own, like the hot dogs. They're like, hey, we're not increasing the price of the hot dogs. So they figured out a way to make the hot dogs themselves and then sell it. So you can get it at the counter at the regular price. But if you buy it from them, if you buy the Kirkland brand hot dogs, you could buy them prepackaged, right? It's a bit more expensive. That's where they recuperate the loss. So let's say Walmart does something like that. And now Great Value brand stuff is cheaper than the commissary's Freedom's Choice brand. Okay. Super rare that Walmart makes it themselves. I can guarantee you that. Because more often than not, because I used to work for a company that made shit for Walmart along with Publix and a couple other grocery store brands, they outsource it to a major supplier. So like Kellogg's or I don't know, freaking Pepsi. Sam's Choice is fucking Pepsi. I don't know if it really is. I'm just using those big names as an example. But more often than not, the retail supplier for the commissary is just going to be like, yeah, we'll just still set the prices pretty cheap. We'll do it even cheaper because we know you guys are going to keep the contract with us. You're going to keep doing it. So Walmart's not even doing the Costco thing. Costco's not really doing the Costco thing unless it's their hot dogs. So that's where I'm having a real hard time with people using the whole, oh, well, I can get it cheaper at Walmart. Fuck you. And then the other argument is, oh, because they don't pay taxes, they're jacking up the price. No, they're not. They're, not allowed to. It's in how they're formed. It's in how the government runs it. They're not allowed to jack up the prices. I'll use Jack Link's beef jerky, for example. I love their teriyaki. When I first started going to the commissary again, when I got my health identification card, I got a whole pound of beef jerky for $14. I couldn't even get it that cheap at Costco. A whole pound bag. Now, is it $16? $17? Sure. That's pretty on point with all the other grocery stores. So at worst, you're paying the same price somewhere else, and at best, you're paying even cheaper. Now, do I know that is very location-based? Yes. Grocery prices in Hawaii are ridiculous all around. So, again, one location could be worse. But as a general rule, the commissary is cheaper than the grocery store chains. Now, I did talk to somebody online who said in Texas, H-E-B is actually cheaper than the commissary in their area. And I'm glad that it's cheaper for you there. I'm glad. But the fact that a small, probably more locally sourced grocery store like Giant Eagle here is cheaper because of the availability of the resources. And so Giant Eagle here boasts most of their products are from local retail shops. They're from local businesses or corporations here. Giant Eagle is still fucking more expensive than the commissary. And I think the part of that is because they're union, which go unions. I know I'm going on a big tangent here. I promise I'm circling back to the article. But so they're going to, so say Walmart takes over the commissary. Are they going to pay people the same way? Because now the people who are working the commissaries aren't paid by the government. So they lose all those government benefits. They are now employees of Walmart or whatever fucking Walmart's official corporate name is. But they are employees of Walmart. So there goes people's retirement pensions. There goes people's good government insurance. Now they have to use Walmart's pay rate, Walmart's thing, and honestly, I don't know if you ever worked at a Walmart. It fucking sucks. They treat their employees like garbage. And if you treat your employees like garbage, more often than not, they're going to treat the service members like garbage. Because I don't know if you've been in a Walmart lately. They fucking suck. And they don't even have cashiers more often than not. They just go to self-checkout because it's more convenient. But the amount of times I've seen people complain about the queues in Walmart, never heard anyone complain about the queue in a commissary. Not a one. And I've been in a commissary where, you're standing a good 10, 15 minutes. Especially around the holidays, you're a good 30 minutes. Everyone's like, yep, it's just busy. But going back to the article, because I feel like I made my point. Let's see. However, the official noted that it was up to the individual military services to bring forward suggestions, and that just because something like the commissary is put forward for privatization doesn't automatically mean that it will be sold off. Quote, everything is in pre-decisional right now, end quote, the official said. Privatizing aspects of the military support services has a long and largely problematic history that has resulted in markedly poorer outcomes for service members while offering little in ways of saving for the Pentagon. Yes, exactly that. More often than not, we're spending more money on these private contracts because guess what? They just want more of that cash cow getting given to them. And we're spending more money and getting shittier results. Why the fuck would we want to do that? Oh, I know. It's because all the corporations are buddies with this current administration, just like they were buddies with fucking Ronald Reagan. William Bill Moore, who served as the director and CEO of the Defense Commissary Agency, or DECA, between 2020 and 2024, wrote in an opinion piece for Ripon Society think tank last year that, quote, privatizing commissaries is quite simply a bad idea, end quote. Moore explained to military.com in an interview Friday, which, again, back on like April 11th-ish, that funding from Congress helps subsidize the commissaries, allowing them to offer products much more affordably than other grocery stores. So because the government runs and pays the commissary system, they sell everything cheaper than grocery stores. Quote, if you privatize without subsidy, I guarantee you that there is no way that they will be able to save military families anything, end quote. Quote, I would be shocked if any for-profit company could take over the commissaries and deliver any benefit to military families beyond convenience. There's no way that they could sell items at the prices the commissaries could. And that's an important thing that I was trying to push with the analogy. Because if you pay Walmart and you don't subsidize them, Walmart's going to try to they're going to jack up the prices to recuperate any loss that the commissary would have had. You're going to spend more money. The veterans and the service members are going to spend more money. But if you do subsidize them, then you're going to be spending more money paying the contract out for Walmart. Commissaries have taken scrutiny in recent years. A 2022 Government Accountability Office report critiqued the methodology for how the agency calculated some of its consumer savings rating, describing it as unreliable. Moore told military.com that they fixed a lot of that, and we're still working on improving those savings estimates to his department from the DECA. And again, it's going like to the conversation of going to get something on sale, right? Like a Sony camera. If the full retail cost is $500, but right now Sony is selling it for like $300 instead of the commissary's $480, sure, it's a bigger deal to get it directly from Sony. But more often than not, getting it directly from the manufacturer, the person who makes it, is always going to be a little cheaper, right? From what I have seen, more often than not, From what I have seen, more often than not, the retail cost is what everyone else sells a certain product. Like Walmart selling Sony cameras for, or Target, or Best Buy, or freaking Amazon. Well, go back to the article. While commissaries are nonprofit organizations by law, profits from military exchanges, retail stores on base that sell a wide variety of products also get cycled into the morale, welfare, and recreation programs for service members and their families. So they don't even go back. It's kind of like they're saving taxpayer money. Oh yeah, I bought a PlayStation at the Navy Exchange instead of GameStop. I'm just using this as an example. Though I do think I bought my Xbox that way. No, I got it from Target. Never mind. So, say you buy the PS5 from the Navy Exchange instead of GameStop, right? It's about the same price. But that money that you spent on the thing, that goes right back into the system. The problem is the government still heavily subsidizes the commissary. Because I think I know what some of you may be thinking. Why don't they just go the way of the post office? Nixon made the post office self-sufficient, right? Problem is everything's kind of set by Congress, who have the coin purse, right? So if inflation happens and shit gets more expensive, can't subsidize the post office. post office is kind of looking a little, eesh. And it's kind of having a really tight budget, right? So if the government doesn't subsidize it, the only way they could generate more money is make post shipping more expensive. So in the end, it doesn't save money for the people using the government program, and then creates this whole snake eating its own tail thing. I was trying to remember what the name was. But then that kind of becomes a huge issue, right? Because we want to save money for our service members and veterans. We also don't want to spend a whole lot of money going into it. So if the exchanges are generating money for the MWR, which helps veterans decompress, or service members, and some veterans, decompress and spend time with their family, especially when they're not deployed. So it's saving the government money too. Imagine that. Edit. Going back to the article, it was unclear how those recreation programs would be fully funded if exchanges were turned over to private corporations, which would likely choose to pocket those profits. Yeah. Because corporations, they don't care about people. They don't care about the government. They care about their fucking own pockets. Notably, some of the top leaders in Trump's administration have voiced their support for privatization efforts in the past. Former Representative Mike Waltz, now Trump's national security advisor, said during a House Armed Services Committee hearing last year that he wanted the military, quote, out of the hotel management business, end quote, and said the private sector could do the job, quote, incredibly well when it came to base housing. Yeah, sure. Like I said earlier, there's a great record of that. Fuckers. As cautionary tales of privatization go, the military's handover of family housing is a prime example, like I talked about earlier. For decades, the arrangement has caused a raft of problems involving companies that manage the units where troops and their families live. Balfour Beatley, a massive company that manages more than 40,000 military homes across more than 50 bases, has repeatedly been sued and forced to pay restitution to military families for its constant failure to ensure military homes are in its care and are safe and livable. 2 weeks ago, the company was hit with yet another lawsuit that alleged the company, quote, concealed the horrific conditions from unsuspecting service members and their families, end quote. And then these conditions were discovered and reported. Balfour systematically failed to properly repair and remedy these significant problems. However, the company's history of shoddy work goes back decades. And it goes back all the way to 2013 and Camp Lejeune and stuff I already talked about. So, and that's the end of the article, so I'm not going to keep harping on that. But yes, privatization is not the way to go. It is honestly the worst thing that we can do for our service members, their families, and veterans who also reap these benefits. And sadly, this is also just a huge part of Project 2025. And people are always like, oh, you were fear-mongering when you kept bringing up Project 2025. Trump didn't know anything about Project 2025, yet it's passed like a third or a fourth of everything so far that the Heritage Foundation wrote in that article, and most of its authors are on his cabinet. So fuck out of here with that. So that also leads me to something that I'm worried about with privatization that is also part of Project 2025, and some of its authors are working with the VA, Collins. As we know, they try to test things with the military to see how it would work at either the civilian side or the veteran side. And that brings me up to the concern for many veterans, the privatization of the VA. And for this next half hour, or how long the rest of the episode is going to take, I'm going to be talking about the VA. There's no article here. I'm not going to read everything. This is just from my own understanding and how I have seen things on and offline. So the first thing I want to talk about is the argument for privatization, and it's the biggest one, is that some officials and veterans use community care via the VA system. And I'm not saying the community care system is a bad thing. In fact, I'm very supportive of it, especially with the fact that rural VA hospitals don't have the space or staff to accommodate all the care that veterans need. But all of that is still paid for by the VA's care system, right? So hospitals, who usually charge private insurances, could jack up the prices of things just like Raytheon. So a Tylenol, which costs probably like $2 for the entire bottle, costs $20 for a single pill. That's the kind of shit that's going to cost the government more money. But that's an argument for why I'm against privatization of the VA, so I'm getting ahead of myself here. Another argument is the private sector could save money on the care for veterans comparatively to the government, right? Like we saw with the commissary, that's a bunch of bullshit. With roughly 9 million patients in the VA's care system, there's a lot of fucking money going into taking care of us all. With the amount of funds that isn't going into the VA, the care can be, and has been, slacking in some areas, especially the rural areas. The argument is that the VA has been in, quote, unquote, red for many, many years, which is a stupid fucking argument, because the VA and the government, again, is not a fucking business. But a big thing that is causing this is the price tag coming with community care. And this is coming from the urgent need to address the VA... Sorry, let me try that again. This is coming from the urgent need to address VA community care spending and access strategies report that this is the big drain on the VA and its budget, and it needs to be reined in. So, I'm going to be talking about where I'm against privatization and the fact that community care has been used as a weapon here. So, again, before I go into the issues, I do want to say that I think community care is a good thing, especially for smaller and rural VA locations, but it is a fucking Band-Aid solution. I've said it before that the VA has been set up for failure by never properly funding and staffing the VA hospitals, and it's been an issue and a struggle for decades. And the staffing is probably due to pay, if anything else. So the VA can't expand, they can't hire more staff, and they can't pay the staff well enough to retain them compared to private corporations. And they can't fix the holes in service that require the VA to send people to community care to begin with. According to the report, referring veterans enrolled into the VA health system to non-VA providers, aka community care or out-of-network care, is an important strategy for serving veterans when needed services are not readily available in the VA's direct care system. However, the cost of such referrals has risen dramatically in recent years to nearly $30 billion in 2023's fiscal year, and now may threaten funding needed to support the VA's direct care system. Real-time information about the timelines and qualities of the community care is generally not available, and research data shows that the community care is often no more timely or otherwise accessible, nor of superior quality to the care offered by the VA. In many instances, community care has been shown to be of lower quality than VA care, and Round Team members, the people who wrote this report, were in unanimous agreement that the VA urgently needs to take actions to control community care utilization and spending if the direct care system is to continue to be available to serve diverse, specialized, and often highly complicated healthcare needs of enrolled veterans. And I have the article, or that whole report, I have the link to that if you want to read it yourself. I will put that in the show notes. And that's a huge thing, right? Like, I have gone to community care. I'm going to community care for a dermatologist specialist that the VA in Pittsburgh doesn't have. Doesn't have the specific person that I need, right? Fine. I have to wait 5 months for this guy? Okay, cool. I would have waited 3 months if the VA had him, at the worst. This was before the hiring freeze. It's not like 5 months as well. But this is a thing that has been a huge issue, right? Because, again, it's a Band-Aid solution. But if we don't pay people and we don't just have the VA expand like we were trying to with the PACT Act, we really are setting ourselves up for failure. Oh, it's almost like Republicans want that because they've never voted on a bill that actually helped the VA get more funds or any veterans have better quality of life things. Fucking fabulous. So, without funds to update or improve the VA, the government keeps spending money through the VA on community care. So again, this just becomes a snake eating its own tail. With continuous use of community care, there are politicians, mostly Republican, but some Democrats, because fuck you guys too. They have seen the amount that is being spent on community care and the lack of services made at the VA, that it's a reasoning to support the VA becoming privatized. And they use it as a weapon. Not realizing why we have community care in the first fucking place. Because we had a lot of GWAT era vets come in and just, hey, they retired, or hey, they finally got their services connected after fighting fucking 10 years like I did. And now, congratulations. We have an influx of veterans, before PACT Act, overwhelming the VA. Okay, cool. Here's a Band-Aid solution. Community care, cool. And yet we're not checking the itemized bill at all. We're just saying, cool, we'll pay that. It makes no sense. It makes no fucking sense. So here's why I'm against privatizing the VA. And first of all, I'm going to bring up again the pattern of things that have happened or been done by private companies. This is going to make, again, like the commissary argument, the VA military grade. We all know. We don't like shit. If you've been in the military, you don't like shit military grade. It's basically going to make it like the vegetarian omelet MRE. It's going to be gross. It's going to be fucking gross. And for example, I'm going to use a big hospital chain here in the Pittsburgh area. I'm going to use UPMC. Don't ask me what UPMC stands for. I don't fucking know. So they've been in a lot of trouble over the last few years. They laid off hundreds of employees, including doctors and nurses, just to save themselves more money and help with record profits. This was pre-COVID. Post-COVID, they struggled with managing its staff and medical systems and supplies. As they lost Medicaid and Medicare margins, because pharmacies and pharmacies can just willy-nilly increase the cost of an item, they were capped, right? They were capped at charging certain things. Now they're not, as far as I know. Or they're working not to be again. But yeah, certain items were capped, especially with state and federal insurances. Wow, it's almost like we try to save people's lives without making them charge an arm and a leg. Now imagine they do this with the VA. Privatizing even a handful of different medical companies, like having more than one contract, right? To run the VA for the government, there's going to be a lot of issues. They're going to be a lot more susceptible to laying off people just to save higher-ups more money, or to survive and continue to work with the government so they can keep that cash cow flowing in, right? The government, you have to, like, really, really fuck up to get fired, and, like, laying off is not really a big thing. Like, mass layoffs, unless you're Trump and you have a chip on your shoulder, aren't really a fucking thing in the government. Like, you actually have to legitimately fuck up. And, like, the level where you would get an Article 15 fuck up, right? So, doctors aren't going to be safe. Veterans are going to have even more, like, longer time for their care and their wait. And these companies will also charge the government more than they do on the civilian side because they know they're going to make more money that way, if they subsidize them or not. Either way, it's going to be more costly for the government just to make the VA a giant community care system. Again, a Band-Aid fucking solution. Because it's not going to actually do anything good. It's just going to, quote-unquote, save the government money, and then we find out, like, 6 months fucking later, hey, it's not saving anybody fucking money. Standards, again, will be given with some basic rules, but as we've seen with the housing contracts, these rules aren't going to be listened to, or they're going to be bent to their benefit. And so, it's It's going to be a shit show. It's going to be a shit show. And I feel like the argument I have made for not privatizing the commissaries and the MWR system is the same argument I'm going to have for the VA system. It's just, one deals with food and feeding people, one deals with people's fucking lives. Because instead of trying to figure out how to cure somebody and try to make sure someone doesn't have a cancer, like in the VA system, where, hey, we're going to try to do this so it saves the government money. It's not altruistic, trust me, but hey, at least they try to solve the fucking issue. And yes, I do know there's some shitheel doctors and staff there, but that's a local issue, not a, like, that is a local issue only. I've seen and heard bad things on and offline, but like that is an issue with like management in that specific location, not the fucking government fucking up, right? But if we had, say, oh hey, you got cancer from Agent Orange or AFFF, okay, cool. Well, UPMC run VA here is going to just kind of keep you just alive so we can just keep getting more money out of you thanks to the VA care system privatization bullshit. Ugh. It is honestly asinine that people think that privatizing any aspect of government services to take care of its own people is a good fucking idea, because then we're just going to go back to the fucking Industrial Revolution where kids were working in factories. Like that same era of mentality. Yeah, they took great care of people. Like, we saw Scrooge. We all know the moral of Scrooge. It's not to just basically put people through the ringer and try to get every fucking penny out of them as best as you can. The government, any government, should take care of its people. That is the government's fucking job. But instead, we're going to take a look at our military and try privatizing it. That is just way to fucking go. It's so fucking stupid. So I think we're at a good part because I'm just going to end up repeating myself here. So I'm going to go into my conclusion. So while I agree that While I agree that there are aspects in both the military and the VA that need some fucking work, trust me, they're not perfect. They need fucking work. I'm very adamantly against the idea of letting corporations, especially when most of them, I'd say 99% of them, think with their fucking pockets only. Especially when we've seen how they have failed our service members worse than the government has. I just don't trust them. And I don't think the government should trust them either. But I feel like I said my piece on this. So as always, folks, my name is Rayven. I am the Rainbow Veteran. And remember to stay safe, stay hydrated, stay vigilant. Hey everybody, it's Rayven here. Before we hit the outro song, I do want to make this little off the top of my head ad here for Trans Hope United. Trans Hope United is a trans-focused podcast group that I joined and helped formed with other podcasters to talk about and share our stories with each other and our audiences. Groups that we have right now is the Brat podcast, or Ben and Robin are trans, Valentine's Voice, podcast, and just other podcasts that we're slowly getting into the fold here to try and spread awareness about each other's shows and just kind of show that, hey, the transgender community, even with everything going on, is standing together and standing firm, that no matter what happens, we are here. And so I do want to make this, and I'm going to add this until we get a official ad that we're in hopes of working on to talk about. But I am going to add these at the tail end of every episode to kind of talk about it and just have you guys listen. So I will try to remember to add them to the show notes in every episode. But if you just look up Trans Hope United and look at all the podcasts under that user name, in different spots on like Spotify or any podcast website. You'll kind of see them there, especially on Spotify. So definitely go check them out. And I'll see you all later.